getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 6 of the season, coming to you today from Rudskogen. My name is Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, for the first time in quite some time, it feels like, here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors world, we head off to Rudskogen. This track that is part of base content seems to be a bit on the unpopular end with iRacers, which I think is a bit of a shame. This track has a very unique feel, some interesting character, and even though it's a track that doesn't get a whole lot of use in real life, I still think it's a darn shame that it doesn't get a lot of use in the sim.
Yeah, I think you're right. It doesn't get a lot of use in the sim, and it could be just, I think a lot of it is got to do with the fact that it's a pretty technical track. So you really have to put some laps in here to get what I would say is good at it. So some people just say, you know what, for the small small chances that we're going to be racing there, it's probably just better just to skip the week and move on, and take one of their drop rounds that they have available to them for the championship, and we'll see you next week. Have a nice week off, and maybe even sit back and watch the race on YouTube. You never can tell.
Yeah, doing it to the broadcast here on SMB ain't that bad of an idea either. I gotta say, I like this track, even though it was one that when it first came out on iRacing, I was actually in a break from my time in the sim. I thought it was Sugo in Japan for a very brief period of time, but it is not. Very different racetrack. The only time I haven't really enjoyed running around here was the one time I ran the BMW M2 shortly after that car came out, which is not too representative based off the fact that the tires are made out of plastic and the brakes are made out of styrofoam in that car. But considering that we are getting to the end of the first half of the season, let's take a quick gander at the championship point standings as we head off into the 6th round of the season. We will start off as usual with the Spec 1 category, where Maurizio Nazelli holds on to a pretty championship points lead as it stands right now. That gap has gone down a little bit over the past couple of weeks because of some misfortune that he has fallen under. However, Mikey Pollard, I don't believe he was here last time out at Road Atlanta, so that's part of the reason why that gap is as big as it is. And doubly so, the fact that Richard Hartwood is only within 6 points of Mikey Pollard in P2. Christopher Cash, another racer that we have seen a lot of thus far this season, slotted in 4th. Jason Chen in what has been a fantastic debut season for him here in Spec 1 off the back of a Spec 1 podium last time out at Road Atlanta, rounds out your top 5. And now we'll take a look at Spec 2, where this championship points battle in Spec 2 has been probably the most exciting to keep my eyes on throughout the entirety of this Weekend Warriors season through all 3 of our series. It's Kevin Adrian, the veteran, and Dmitry Lukanov, the newcomer. Lukanov made his debut at Sebring, but since then he has scored 3 wins, those being back-to-back-to-back leading into this race. He holds on to P2, but is only 5 points, I should say, back of Kevin Adrian in that championship points lead. Paul Jackson a little bit farther behind. Alexander Gorson a teeny tiny bit farther back from that, with our very own Mr. Joshua Wilkie rounding out your top 5 in Spec 2. And now we will take a look at Masters, where Antonio Reese once again has pulled out to a points lead, even though he only has 1 win up to this point in the season, which is a tiny bit surprising. And you got Jörg Monty slotted right behind, despite the fact that Monty hasn't really been too consistent of a force in the Weekend Warriors world over the past couple of seasons. Slotted in 2nd, already has 2 wins up to this point in the championship, with Jeff Wubker, Michael Nelson, and Andrew Love completing our top 5 in the Masters category. Charles, you mentioned it right towards the top of the show. This track is super, super technical, super, super tricky, so I feel like these keys may be even more important than they usually are.
Yeah, Ron, I think so. So the keys to the race today are as follows. Turn 1 and 2 will cause problems during the race. It's just how big of a problem are they going to cause? It's just the way the track is set up. Long straightaway, as you see, with a very tight turn into 1 and then a quick switch back into 2. It just seems like it catches cars out week in and week out. Secondly, where you can use more than just the track. There's a lot of corners here that you can kind of extend beyond the track limits without getting off tracks, or even sometimes a little strategic off track never hurts. You can take a little more than you think you need to, that you think you can, in order to make a better lap time. And then finally, managing the throttle well through the long corners is going to be key. We've got a couple of long sweepers that you just need to kind of massage the throttle to carry your speed through properly, keep the car balanced as you're rotating around through the corner, and that's going to be a big key to the race today.
Yeah, those keys are usually a nice little cheat sheet for these racers to try and do well, and I think that really rings true. This track, super tricky to try and manage. And let's do an onboard lap with Russell Tucker as we see him head his way onto the start-finish straightaway, riding on board with the driver of the 260 car, negotiating this long start-finish straightaway. It's not the longest flat-out blast on the lap, but it leads into a pretty heavy braking zone into turn 1 and 2, a section of track that feels oddly similar to Motorsports Arena Oschersleben. It's a kind of a similar feel heading off through that section of the track through turn number 2, still bending off in the road as you head your way through this massively long back flat-out blast, the longest flat-out blast in the entirety of this lap, in fact, but it ends in a very tricky way as you head your way through 3 and 4. Got to go down the gears, negotiate the undulations in the road, the change of elevation too, and try and keep the momentum rolling as you head your way off through the tight and technical second sector. Now we've got 5 and 6 and 7. This S section leads off into a very tricky hairpin. Uphill, then downhill, uphill, then downhill. So much elevation change around this track really keeps you on your toes. That turn 9 also keeps you on your toes as you try and put on the throttle. Heading down to the hairpin of turn number 10. A sneakily good overtaking opportunity for these racers here today. May see a couple drivers go for a dive off in there. Same could be said about this turn coming up after the bend in the road of 11. This is turn number 12. Got a lot of runoff area to work off there as well, even though you have the grass and the gravel going to slow you up a little bit. Telker picks up a slowdown there, so very tricky to avoid that. Now all through 13 and 14. Feels like a similar section to turns 1 and 2 on this track. In fact, it feels like the track repeats itself, but still very, very tough to manage as Telker heads his way onto that start-finish straightaway to complete the lap, trying to test the limits of this circuit and make sure he can run as many wheels off the circuit as he humanly can without picking up a slowdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of part of the deal with this track is there are a couple places, as you saw that final corner, I saw lots of cars basically straddling the yellow and white on the outside there just to make some extra time. No slowdowns, no off tracks, but you can just carry that much more speed through as if you can go wide on the exit. We'll say this as going back as you were talking about the championship points. So for in Spec 1, Naselli is here, and the next person in the championship order that's here is Ian Anderson. I think is sitting in 8th. Is sitting in 8th in qualifying, but I think also sitting at 8th in the championship. So he's going to make up some ground to his competitors. And then you talked about the Spec 2 battle. We've got Kevin Adrian sitting in P2 in qualifying, and then the second place in Spec 2, Dmitry Lukanov, sitting in P4 in qualifying. So those guys are here ready to race, ready to battle each other, and then Josh Wilkie just a little bit behind there in 5th. And then obviously you got Jorg Monty sitting up there in 3rd, who is 2nd place in the Masters class. So he is looking to make up a little more of that 30-point or so deficit to Antonio Reese. So lots of really interesting championship battles here to talk about today.
And only 17 cars out there on the racetrack, which I was wondering exactly why there was a bit lower participation here today. And then I think I clanged my 2 brain cells together, one that decided to eat grass when I was a kid and the other that decided to eat paper as a kid. They clanged together to get a pretty good conclusion. Time changes. We're in the midst of that. The best time of year for iRacing broadcasters, especially ones that are having to worry about time zones that are not just their own, having to worry about time zone changes. I am always paranoid this time of year that I'm going to miss a show. I got pretty close, I think, a year ago when we changed the clocks last year to missing a broadcast, and I believe we will be changing the other times of the show. See, in the past, there would be somebody who'd work out that information for me, so I can just kind of give you all a heads up. That person is basically me now, so I'm going to have to do my homework between this show and the Spec Racer Fords so we can keep you all up to date. And, of course, check your local listings, as they say on TV stations here in the U.S., here on the SMB channel, to make sure you don't miss on the racing.
Yeah, I will ask our producer, Guido. Guido, did your time change last night? Yep. Okay. So Europeans changed last night. So okay, Americans changed next week. So that's the difference, and that's what catches a lot of people out. I thought you were going to say it was the Global Endurance Series, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is not really a just a 24-hour race. Just happens to be at a French track. Has no correlation with any kind of copyrighted titles or anything like that. But I do know that there's a race going on this weekend there as well. So, who knows? There might be some drivers out doing that.
Yeah, I gotta say, there's been a lot of interesting racing this week, and of course, the NASCAR penultimate races of all their seasons going on in real life. Had the MX 500 over on the iRacing channel, which notes to self for me next year: don't volunteer to do that show again because you have to wake up at 7:30 in the morning to do it. Which, but anyways, let's take a look at the starting grid before we head off into this 40-minute long race here for round number 6 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. Maurizio Naselli will start this race from the pole position. Kevin Adrian, the Spec 2 pole sitter, will join him on the front row. Jorg Monty, your Masters pole sitter, going to complete the top 3. Interesting to know. I think that's the first time in quite some time that all 3 of our respective class pole sitters have started at the top 3. Pretty fascinating to see that. David Lehman, off the back of a Masters win last time out at Road Atlanta, will round out your second row. And that's an all Spec 2 row number 3 with Dmitry Lukanov starting alongside Mr. Joshua Wilkie, Dan Witzak, and Alan DeGassis in P7 and P8. Ian Anderson will start this race in 9th with Antonio Reese rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, Jim Brewster starting in 11th, Peterson Rocha starting in 12th, Russ Telker starts in 13th, Todd Shuey starting in 14th, Robin Hallett starts in 15th, Jeff Wubker starting in 16th, Michele Viglini, good to see him over here in the Formula 4s this weekend, will be starting in 17th. And Nick Sigley, I don't think ever came out onto the track. He did come into the session, but I don't think he never set a qualifying time. I don't think he's going to be there for the race. And I kind of concur with you, Ron. I do remember a few occasions where we had our top 3 being the winners in each class, but I don't ever remember our qualifying setting up that way. That's a very interesting little note.
I'm looking through with the information that I've got here because I, being the statistical nerd that I am, and actually fun little fact as we're on this rather lengthy lap, we can do a little story time with Ron segments. Back in 6th grade, I had to do a project for a STEM class where I was like, oh, what career do you want to get into? And even though I had my eyes set on being a Formula 1 driver, despite being an unhealthy 11-year-old that lived and died by pastry, I still decide, okay, I'm not going to put F1. I just need to come up with an adult career that I may never go down because I want to be a racing driver. And I put in motorsports statistician, which is basically what I do now, albeit I have to yap about my own statistics that I come up with. I'm looking through what we've had thus far here this season. I think the closest and most tightly knit we have had the field was actually last week with Dmitry Lukanov, the Spec 2 pole sitter, being the back of the class pole sitters. He started in 6th. David Lehman, your Masters pole sitter last time at, started in P5, and of course Maurizio Nazelli started from the overall pole. That's now 5 poles from Maurizio Nazelli in 6 races. The only driver who has broken up that streak for him is James Berry. Rather impressive to see. We'll note Russ Telker is currently down the pits at the present moment. Nick Sigley did not take to the racetrack for this pace lap, so it looks like Telker will be starting down pit lane. Everybody else out there on the racetrack, and was probably going to be a pretty competitive race.
Yeah, I think so. Russ has decided he's going to start from the pits. Probably not a bad idea. Obviously, it keeps you out of the mess. 1 and 2 is going to be a little tricky, obviously, on the first lap with the field bunched up with cold tires and cold brakes. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Hopefully with the smaller field that we're used to having, that shouldn't be as much of an issue. But it just seems like sometimes there's always going to be that one person that just kind of misses something somewhere, either the breaking point into 1, or usually it's cutting the corner into 2 and maybe taking a little too much of the inside apex and or drifting wide coming through. So we'll keep an eye on it, and should be in for a pretty good race, though. We've got some really fast cars up front.
Yeah, expecting some fun racing here from the 6th round of the season as a green flag's out and the drivers are on their way. We're racing here at Rudskogen as Maurizio Nazelli pulls that into an early lead. Kevin Adrian had to withstand some pressure from Jörg Monty, who's still going to see some side-by-side racing right behind him, involving David Lehman, Josh Wilkie, and Dmitry Lukanov. Lukanov looking to try and strike while the iron is hot, with Adrian starting this race in 2nd, wants to have his 4th win in a row and try and jump up into that Spec 2 championship points lead. But up the front, it's Nazelli over Adrian, over Monty. Lehman and Wilkie complete your top 5 as Lukanov drops back to 6th.
Yeah, good start by everybody. No incidents. We got a couple of cars shuffled. Wilkie being a little aggressive there at the start, getting past Lukanov, his championship rival. So taking advantage of that while the field was bunched up. But still Lukanov right there behind him. So that battle is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, wise words from our producer, Guido. So far, so good. Knowing my luck, though, I said it, so I'm probably going to jinx it. We're going to see a 15-car pileup in the not-too-far-off future. Looking at Telker, he has rejoined the racetrack, heading his way off through turn number 8 right now, but up the front, still clean as they head their way off into turn number 12. Pretty challenging corner to try and nail down. I didn't really sell it too much in the track guide earlier, and that sells it right there. That right there was Todd Shuey spinning around at the 230.
Yeah, couldn't tell if he had help or not, but just coming on the edge of the corner, those curbs will cause the rear to get a little light and loose. So that's what we're going to say it is until we see a replay as the top three starting to break away. And then, there's a nice move there on the inside. That was Wilkie on Lehman to take over P4 as we see Witzak down on the inside of turn 2. And we've seen that before. Managed to get back on the track and rejoin pretty nicely.
And Witzak actually had to dive back off the circuit as he tried to rejoin. That's a problem with turn number 1. I talked about the similarities between it and Motorsports Arena Oschersleben and the opening series of corners there. Really rings true. If you run wide off through 1 and go off the circuit down into 2, Oschersleben does not have a lot of runoff area on the inside. You pretty much just have to rejoin the racetrack and hope you don't get rear-ended, as we see that spin from Shuey heading out of turn number 12. Really tough corner to nail down. It's an odd corner, odd angle with the runoff area. Even though you do have a small patch of asphalt, you've got the grass and the gravel immediately afterwards, so it certainly keeps you on your toes. But just to wrap up this point with Dan Witzak, as we take a look at the replay, it's a little bit loose at the apex, and then he just has to dive off the track to avoid having a bad rejoin. That's a tricky thing about 1 and 2. If you go off the track, it punishes you even more than just picking up a couple of incident points.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was as we see another car around, that is Jeff Wubker in the back there with a little spin. So we're gonna get a replay just right away as Wubker making his way around the corner there, and as he exits out, looks pretty good there. Looks like turn 12 again. It was on the curb on the outside going into the corner. Not enough grip there to sustain the rotation through, and losing the rear of the car. And so just, they'll get used to that. They'll adjust their lines in 12. It is, as you said, a very tricky corner. We've got Shuey in the pits now with a tow. So another instant from Shuey. Are we coming down this turn? Is this the straightaway? Yeah, this is the front straight heading down into 1. Let's see what happens to Shuey here, the Canadian. We work our way down in and just misses the apex. And I think just decides, you know what, I'm not doing well. I think may just park it and go practice a spec racer.
I think Todd Shuey has decided to call it a day. He has left the session. The first retirement from this race comes about 3.5 laps into it. Maurizio Nazelli still leading over Kevin Adrian, over Jurg Mani. This is the complete non-point to raise of all time. But as I saw that moment from Shuey, I noticed that the braking marker signs as you head your way down into 1 slightly angled. So I've never noticed that before until today. Maybe I just whacked my head too much as a child, and it took me this long to notice that they are actually angled ever so slightly. But anyways, I'll point that out whenever it pops up on the screen once again, as we have still got the racing up at the front. Jurg Mani just set a quick time there, fast lap the race for him, as he looks to try and become the first racer from this Weekend Warrior season to win a race overall as a non-Spec 1 competitor. We always like to keep tabs on the non-Spec 1 racers challenging for the win, and it's always Jurg Mani in the Masters category. It's either him or Antonio Reese contending for those overall victories.
Yeah, and he's obviously just at the fastest lap of the race, but he still has Kevin Adrian in front of him. You see a battle there with Jim Brewster and Robin Howlett, one of our newcomers. So they're working their way through a set of corners there in that midfield section. And you see Brewster just doing his best to hang on and trying to keep Howlett behind him, and is doing a good job so far. But I think Howlett may have his number, and we'll get him once they get down on the straightaway, as we see a battle here. This is Wilkie moving to the inside of Lukanov, who had moved up into P4. So somehow Lukanov had managed to get past Lehman and Wilkie somewhere in the last lap or so. So he's up into 4th, Wilkie down into 5th, but we still got our top 3 up there. Naselli, Adrian, and Monty still our podium setters for the time being.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what sort of shuffling may go on between these competitors between now and the very end. So a long way left to go here at Rudskogen as these drivers continue to set the quick times. It was Nazelli saying the fast lap, then Kevin Adrian right after. That's a 1:27.419 for him. So well done to Adrian to set in a quick time. He's now trying to shake off Monty like a bad case of the fleas, as it's about 0.2 of a second between these competitors heading their way down the back flat app list into 3 and 4. Will Monty go for a move on Adrian sooner sooner rather than later. This is a big race for Adrian, but that's a big moment for him. He's going to run wide, pick up a slowdown, and that will most likely give that spot to Jörg Mani. He yields heading down into 5 and 6, and through into second goes Mani. Was just going to say that this is a big race for Adrian, but that was a big mistake for him too.
Yeah, we talked about turn 1 and 2 being a very dangerous set of corners. Turn 3 and 4 is very tricky because as you're coming down the straightaway into 3, you kind of crest the hill and the car gets very light, right where you need to start working on braking and turning in for 3. And just makes it very difficult. Really easy to run wide there, carry too much speed through 3 into 4, and you see the results as you leave the inside wide open. As you've got a car trailing, he's going to make the move. So nice job by Jörg to take the advantage when he could, and a good job by Adrian getting the cars corralled back under control and back in there so he can challenge to get that spot back.
Yeah, so it's still not over.
Coming to the pits.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not over for Adrian, but this stint is over for Antonio Rees. That is rather early to come down pit lane. Even though this track is one of a kind, that is rather intriguing. And he's not alone in that call. Jeff Wubker has come into the pits as well. That is a rather fascinating strategic decision from the both of them. Even though this track is bizarre with some a decent amount of medium speed corners where we are probably lifting, can get some good fuel saving done here. That still seems a bit risky as we see Russ Telker hitting the brakes on the curb down into turn number 12 and looping it around in the blink of an eye. Yeah, that curb going into 12 is not letting anybody get the car slowed down. It's just really causing problems with some of the cars, because it's kind of a natural thing is to open up the corner, get as wide on entrance as you can, but this curb is just saying, no, you're not coming out here and braking. You're going to have to take that a little bit more narrow, or at least get your braking done in a straight line and then turn in once you've kind of released the brake so you can make the corner. But so you see several cars that are dealing with issues there. Notice Dan Witzak earlier is down to P12. He's had a couple of more slowdowns, just trying to get the track limits figured out here and see what he's capable of running. And he's struggling just a little bit here early. He's normally a really good driver up in the top 10, but not so much at this point today. Yeah, I think a lot of racers are running into difficulties here at Rudskogen. You brought up the point how this is a track that people usually just say, you know what, I'm not even going to bother practicing because it's probably not going to be on the schedule. As we see Michele Viglini with a slowdown and Russ Telker towing back to pit lane. So things going from bad to worse, even worse still for the driver of the 260 car. I think he's decided to call it a day. And let's see, is it down to turn number 12 once again? Yes, it is. He spins on the exit this time instead of the entrance, pulls it off in the gravel, doesn't hit the wall, but does hit the Alt F4 button and decides to go on with the rest of his afternoon. That's the second retiree from this race, and it comes with about 7 laps on the board here at Rudskogen. It's been a pretty challenging one for these competitors. I may have a theory that I'll share in a couple of moments about this track, but I'll pass it back off to you, Charles. Oh, yeah. So we'll watch this battle here with Howlett Brewster, the Converse All-Star of Pettersson Rodka, and Dan Witzak running in. That's a battle for P9 through P12. Nice little 4-car battle. Howlett has managed to get his way around Brewster, but Brewster hanging in there, keeping him close as Rocha and Witzak are starting to work their way up just a little bit more. And it's going to make this a nice battle here. We'll see where the trouble is going to lie for that group, if it's going to be battling down into turn 1 as we're on board here with Ian Anderson making his way around David Lehman, the Iron Brew car with that classic Williams Labette's livery. So good to see those out there still having some good battles there just outside the top 5. Yeah, so as we keep our eyes on the battles all around the racetrack, it's looking smoother up towards the front for Maritza Nazelli as he's pulled a 1-second gap to himself and Jörg Mani. Right behind, though, Mani and Adrian feeling the pressure from one another. Mani has also been blinking out a decent amount in this race, so the aliens are most certainly upon us here at Rudskogen. But the theory that I was going to raise a few moments ago about this track, there was a bit of a stereotype that was put onto Spa many moons ago on iRacing as being one where driver safety rating would essentially go to die That track was known for having some bad incident points. I think it was in one of the first runnings of the Max Vance Open as well, where one of our weekend warriors best, Yanchi Lin, actually won one of the runnings of that event many moons ago. But they decided to run an event with 1x being the incident limit at Spa, and it was pretty much just a matter of who would be the last to get disqualified. I feel like Rudskogen has kind of usurped Spa in terms of being one where these drivers can collect those incident points like Pokemon cards.
I mean, maybe so, and I can add to the Spa theory. One of the last GTE races I did there was a multi-class with the LMP1s and the LMP2s, and I think I had 12x before I got to the start-finish line, just from other people not figuring out how to brake. So yeah, I get it. Spa is one of those tracks where you can collect incident points in a real hurry. And this is also very similar. I think this actually kind of is a cross between maybe Spa and maybe Le Mans, in that you can also collect slowdowns here as well, and that will really set you back. So Le Mans not necessarily known for collecting X's, but getting slowdowns through corners where you're cutting the car too close, and you end up with about a 1 second slowdown that you have to work off. That usually takes 3 or 4 off of your overall pace for whatever reason. So maybe that's got a little bit to do with it.
Every single time that I see Monty and Adrian swap spots, it's just because Monty's been abducted by a UFO again. See, I always found it a little bit irritating when cars would blink in an ad. Then I started producing, and I started to hate those blinking ad cars about 15 times more than I already did. So Monty continues to visit the aliens every now and then as he's on his way to P2 at the present moment. If you're going to hold on to that spot between now and the checkered flag, Dan Witzak, the latest to come down pit lane in the 113 car. He's had a pretty rough ride of things here in this event, but makes a call to pit and picks up a black flag in the process. I was just going to say, the pit lane here is rather tricky, both on exit and entry.
Yeah, and I think he just said that's enough. So I'm just watching Dan to switch from the black flag to out. So the pit entry is a little tricky. It's very long. Got a couple of bends in it that you have to account for, so you can't just go at max pace until you get to the cones. You have to slow down a little bit to make your way around a couple of corners, and then kind of gun it to get to the cone, and then brake at the last minute. I think Dan Witzak broke a little bit too late, could not get the car slowed down enough, got the pit speeding entry penalty, unless Guido finds us a replay that shows where he actually got an unsafe entry, which means he hit the wall somewhere. But otherwise, so just a tough break there. And we do look at this. We do have a replay for Guido. So here comes Witzak into the pits. Looks okay so far. It was close to the line, but I think he's all right. And I'm gonna guess if it was speeding, it was very close. And I think he realized it about the time he got to his box and said, "Yeah, that's enough." So that's it for Dan today. We'll see if he makes it in the Spec Racers. If not, we'll see him, I'm sure, next week back here in the Formula Fords for hopefully some better results. As we're still on board here with this battle now with this is Dmitry Lukanov has kind of shed Josh Wilkie just a bit there. The gap's about 0.9 of a second, so he's starting to pick up the pace. And they are starting to close down that group that's up there in P2 and 3, Monty and Adrian. So Lukanov is really starting to pick it up, and he's going to be up there starting that 3-car battle with Wilkie doing his best to try and catch that up and make it a 4-car battle there for podium positions.
Yeah, so as we continue to see these battles going on out there on the racetrack, interclass battles like this one between David Lehman and Ian Anderson, or just regular straight-up class battles between the likes of Kevin Adrian, Dmitry Lukanov, Josh Wilkie, and others all throughout this field. I was just going to raise another part about the challenge here at Rudskogen, and a little mental task for me to maybe hand myself whenever I have the free time to really break down the stats. I would love to know what track produces the most amount of rage quits on iRacing, at least on the road course side. I feel like Rudskogen may be up towards the top of the list, because there's only so many times you can pick up a 3-second slowdown before you just say, you know what, screw this, I'm going to go and do a crossword book.
Yep. I don't know. That would be interesting. That would be interesting to know how many cars would quit a race because of slowdowns or things like that. I think for the most part, I don't think that's the thing. Now, I will tell you probably the most rage quits from any track is probably Monza. And it's probably after the incident at turn 1 on the first lap. Going into that first chicane, you're always going to have 3 or 4 cars that are just completely destroyed going through there the first time because it's Monza. so that's always good for 2 or 3 right at the start of the race.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you are a turn 1 marshal at Monza, both in real life and in the sim, if that would be cool if iRacing could have that sort of thing. That'd be very nice. I think that'd be something that one of our slow motion broadcasting colleagues, Mr. Kenan Miller, would probably be a fan of. As he's usually a corner marshaller at VIR. But anyways, that's got to be a lucrative job, just because you're doing a heck of a lot of work, and you could probably take a heck of a lot of body parts out of these race cars once they do have a moment down into turn number 1. But we'll leave that jokery in the rearview mirror, as in the rearview mirror of Kevin Adrian is a rather unwelcome sight. It's his championship rival in Spec 2, Dmitry Lukhanov. He's closed up that gap. It's now battle for both the final podium spot overall in this field and the lead in Spec 2. Adrian had some good pace early on. I wonder if he burnt up his stuff just a little bit, as Lukhanov has reeled him in. If these two run into any sort of difficulties or just start to battle hammer and tong and bring in more cars into it, then it will be a 3-car battle for the lead in Spec 2's Joshua Wilkie, not too terribly far behind in that 777 car. Whoa. Oh, look, another trip up there from Adrian. He gets sideways off through 4, and here comes Lukhanov. Going to try and take the run on the outside through 5. Going to be the inside through 6, and through into the Spec 2 lead goes Dmitry Lukhanov.
Very nicely done by Lukhanov there. Again, just taking advantage of the little catch that Adrian had to make, slowed him down, and was able to get to the outside and work it so he would have the inside for the next corner. And now we got Wilkie coming up as well, only 0.8 back. We're going to get another replay here. Oh, this is Howlett with is that Brewster right behind him? I believe so. That looks like Jim's colors. As I think that's also turn 3 and 4 as well. And you see too much there by Howlett. Just tried to carry too much speed through. Rear tires gave up through mid part of turn 4. Had to catch the car and allowed Brewster and Rocha to both get by, as we see now Anderson coming into the pits.
Yeah, quite fascinating to see Ian Anderson make that call to come down pit lane. Don't usually see drivers make that call to pit pretty much as close as you can get to the halfway mark, which it seems a little counterintuitive, but what's the saying? The first idea that pops into your head to solve a problem is usually dumb for a very good reason. Pitting at the halfway mark of these races is not usually the popular call, but interesting to see Anderson make that. I wonder if there's something about this racetrack, how challenging it is, that may cause these racers to go for some off-the-wall strategy. He's going to hold off on that point, though. Lukhanov with a slowdown. He's going to have to worry about serving this before the likes of Kevin Adrian and Josh Wilkie can pounce on him. Wilkie has closed up that gap. It was a matter of 1.5 seconds, about 1.5 laps ago. It's now a half a second. So you look at Wilkie, you look at Adrian. Lukhanov still having to serve that slowdown. Hasn't gotten it taken care of just yet. He's going to have to do that really, really quick. He does finally get that cleared. Was worried that he was going to pick up a black flag for a second.
Yeah, that was really close. It looked like he was just trying to bleed the speed off through the corners. And just take it a little easier through there, so that way less opportunity for them to make a move around through the middle of the apex there, and was able to get it done, but has really closed the gap now, and with especially with Wilkie and Adrian, now the gap 0.2, and Wilkie looking to the outside, and Josh is just not quite close enough yet to make that move down into turn 1, so hangs back, stays in P5, but he's all over Adrian like a cheap suit.
Oh, that's giving me bad flashbacks to a rental tuxedo horror story that I had going to my cousin's wedding back at the end of 2019. That gave me about as many rashes as you can imagine. Top tip of the day, do not get a rental tuxedo from Northeast Philly because you will probably leave that with skin that will never feel the same. You'll have to scrub your skin off for it to feel anywhere close to similar beforehand. Now we jump to this battle, though, with Kevin Adrian and Josh Wilkie before I have to get in contact with my dermatologist again. Wilkie looking to jump his way up into P4. This Spec 2 field is, I'm looking through, do we have more Spec 2 racers in this field than every other class? I think Masters may have them tied, but that's actually, no. I think we have more Spec 2 racers than we do Masters competitors. Nice to see the Spec 2 field really strong throughout this season.
Yeah, really is really strong this season. Yeah, eight Spec 2 drivers and 6 Masters drivers, and 4 of our Spec 1. So yeah, so Spec 1 taking the week off apparently, and so the rest of the guys out here saying, "Hey, we got a championship to battle for. We're not going to miss a week. Any week we get out here is a chance we can make up points."
Dmitry Lukanov saying in a quick time, he has taken that Spec 2 lead and said, "Thank you very much. I'm so happy about this." He's just driving off into the sunset, but the battling right behind will cause that gap to grow even more. 1.4 seconds is the present gap between himself and Adrian. Actually, no, it's 1 second between himself and Adrian. So as I fail to read the graphics, we will continue on to let you know that Adrian is still feeling that pressure from Wilkie. I think he's gotten his act together, for lack of a better term. We've seen that car slide around a little bit less, that 210 car, for a brief period of time. It looked like the wheels were bolted on sideways, but ever since then, it looks like he has put his nose back to the grindstone, is running strong, and is trying to hold off the challenge from Wilkie as Lukanov farther up the road slowly but surely reels in Monty.
Yeah, they are closing it down. As I was watching Adrian there, and turn 3 and 4 still giving him a little bit of trouble. He's just going really wide, trying to carry as much speed through 3 as he can, and ends up right out on the outside of the outside white line of the track limit. And there's just some bumps out there that just kind of upset the car as he's trying to turn in for 4. And I think that's what's causing him the issues. I think he needs to just narrow that entry or that line through turn 3 and just tighten it up just a little bit, stay off those bumps out there, and probably end up picking up a couple of tenths during his lap. Lukanov again with the fastest lap of the race. He's on a tear right now.
Yeah, Dmitry Lukanov deciding to peak at the right time. Good lap times from him. Now proving to the 126s. We are expecting some drivers to really set in some heaters, and that he certainly is. Not the only driver choosing to peak at the right time. Peterson Rosa just set his personal best lap of the race, along with Robin Howlett right behind. Nice to see Howlett join the series, along with Michele Viglini. The driver, of course, Viglini, a driver that we recognize from Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors competition that you can catch here on Slow Motion Broadcasting later on these Sundays, but Howlett, nice to see a driver join the Formula Ford ranks. These drivers, a lot of them that you see out there on the racetrack, haven't been around for too long. Lukanov has just made his debut this season, and he's battling with Monty, a veteran of Weekend Warriors competition. In fact, the very first driver I ever got the chance to interview many moons ago, my first Weekend Warriors show. These two now duking it out for P2. If Lukanov can walk away with another overall podium, that would be a darn good result, because Lukanov has been on a bit of a kick of grabbing overall podiums, or at least getting very close to it. Grabbed the podium last time out at Road Atlanta with a P3. The time before that at Bathurst finished in P5. And even though he didn't do it at Okayama, he was still very, very quick there. Lukanov probably been one of the most impressive racers throughout this season, as he now challenges Monty for second, as Josh Wilkie has now made that call to come down pit lane.
Yep, Wilkie in the pits, 25-minute mark of the race. Feels like a good time as any. Roja in the pits as well. So 2 of our top 10 drivers have decided to drop off and go ahead and get their pit stop done. Obviously, they're looking for the undercut to try and maybe get a couple quick laps in, as these cars are still kind of working themselves through traffic. So we'll see what happens with that as Wilkie's got his pit stop done on the way out. And we'll see where everybody else stops. I think based on what we saw with Antonio Reese earlier, if he's got enough fuel to get, we're going to talk about the 33 minute mark here before these drivers just absolutely have to come in and get fuel.
See, I'm just hoping that Josh doesn't have some sort of strategy debauchery go on for him throughout this race. That, I think, is the first time in my entire broadcasting career that I've ever used the word debauchery. So we're breaking new grounds here today at Rudskogen as we keep with the action and follow these racers battling for P2. Mani and Lukanov continuing to duke it out still. I wonder if any more of these racers up towards the top end of the field will make that decision to come into the pit sooner rather than later. I wonder if anyone has thought about doing a little bit of fuel saving. We mentioned it briefly when we saw the likes of Antonio Reese and I believe it was also Jeff Wubkerd come down pit lane very early on in this race. And I'm a little bit surprised that we did see them come down into the pits, but I wonder if this track is a little conducive to doing a very big fuel save strategy. Certainly one man that doesn't like the fuel saving is Jurg Mani, as he is now trying to save onto P2 as he had a bit of a wiggle out of 2. Lukanov closes up, but not close enough, hanging down to 3 and 4.
Yeah, I don't, as you just said, Monty does not like the fuel save. He likes to go 10 out of 10 for the entire race. Naselli probably is doing some fuel saving now because he has a pretty nice gap to back to P2. But even if Monty won the fuel save, he's had pressure with Adrian and Lukanov now for basically the entire race. So he has not really had the opportunity since Naselli has been able to break away. And so he probably had a little opportunity while they were still the top 3 together. But once Naselli was able to break the draft, we've got a crash as we on board. This is Howlett, I believe. It is indeed. Coming down, this is the turn 3 and 4 area. As you can just see him carrying it. So far, so good. And just too much wheel input there for the speed he was going, and just the rear just kind of broke loose. So unfortunate there, but his first mistake, he's still running at P8. Still has a nice gap back to Wilkie, who's of course always has already pitted. But I was going to say that we'll say Antonio's the benchmark. If Antonio has got enough fuel to get to the end, Josh took a lap extra. So Wilkie with a little bit longer pit stop time. If Antonio doesn't have enough fuel to make it to the end, then I think Josh hit it right on the nose. So we'll see how that all shakes out.
Is this a good strategy call from Mr. Joshua Wilkie? I shouldn't have said that because it's probably going to cause him to get jinxed. As we take a look at a moment for Michele Viglini heading down into turn number 10. This hairpin, went a little bit deep, probably trying to get out of the way of Antonio Reese and then just clip the dirt. That downhill braking zone off into turn number 10, so tricky to try and manage, doubly so because it feels like the track goes back on you once again. So very easy to lock up a wheel, maybe run wide, unfortunately for Viglini. Ran a little bit too wide, hit that dirt, and around he goes. So the number 18 spinning now down in the pits as well with 11 minutes left to go in this race. Keeping our eyes once again on these drivers a little bit farther up the road, though. Mani and Lukanov hold on to P2. Nobody else making that call to come down pit lane just yet. Emphasis on yet. I think one thing that may sway these racers slightly in terms of when they want to come down pit lane is the fact that pit lane is very treacherous here in these Formula 4s. No pit lane speed limit buttons, so they have to do it the old-fashioned way. And you have also got a very tough pit entry and exit where it's so easy to pick up a black flag.
Yeah, it really is. And we'll keep an eye on that as Viglini has made a stop, is back out. I think he actually missed his box and had to back up to get into it. So, he was just absolutely, you're exactly right. He was just trying to stay out of Antonio's way. And he's just running his race. As he always does, he's very respectful of the other cars on the track because he knows he doesn't have quite the pace that some of these other drivers have. So he is very respectful to see the racing line whenever he can. And just that time, just braking on the grass just never works. And so a little spin, but he's fine. He'll be back out there, and already back out. He's running in 14th. And we still have a few pit stops left. The top 8 have yet to pit. So they'll be in here, I'm going to say soonish, the next 2 laps or so, I believe, before they run out.
With 9.5 minutes now left on the clock, we'll probably see everybody come down pit lane sooner rather than later, as Nazelli has actually come into the pits from the race lead. So the driver of the number 47 car makes that call to pits. Very slow on entry, trying to avoid any sort of black flag. Robin Howlett with a slow down a little bit farther behind. This gives the race lead to Maurizio Nazelli. Dmitry Lukanov slotted in P2. Nazelli going to get joined in the pits by Alan Degassis, as Monty yet again gets abducted by a UFO. And I think not only did they take him off the racetrack, they took his grip too, as he slid once again off through 2. May lose out on some time there as we jump to a replay to see Monty and a bit of a wiggle he had off into this section. Could have been poorly for him, as Petrus and Rocha had an off-track moment around about the same time off through 1 and 2, and may have followed it up with a moment down into 3 and 4. Let's see as he heads his way off through there. Yep, just loops it around. These FF1600 cars on iRacing are not known for being very good handlers. In fact, I used to love them, keyword being used to be. There were some updates that they did to this car that I think has kind of shifted the handling in a direction that I personally don't like, but again, very good reason why I'm behind the microphone instead of behind the wheel. But even before that, heading off through 3 and 4 in a car that doesn't have a lot of suspension and does not have a lot of mechanical grip, there's 2 words that pop into your head heading off through 3 and 4, and that is, oh no. Another expletive could be used, but we can't say that on the air. You can just picture it in your own head.
Yeah. So as we got the leaders coming into the pits now, so Monty and Lukanov come in together. We go see Adrian as well. We are indeed Adrian in. Lehman and Brewster are the next 2, and it looks like Lehman's staying out, so he's going to go for one more lap. So you asked about fuel saving. There's probably your guy who's probably done as much as anybody, as David Lehman comes in, and we'll see if Brewster's going to make it into the pits this time or not. Kind of waiting for there we go, he is in. So Lehman is the only one who stayed out, able to get an extra lap of fuel out of his tank. So he'll come around and serve his, I'm sure, the next lap, as Naselli is coming down the start finish line. We'll see, we got Lukanov and Adrian and Monty all on pit exits, so we'll see where the drag race ends up.
So here we go. That's Lukanov jumping up in front of Monty. Expertly crafted call from him. And Adrian going to be slotted right behind in P5. That's Josh Wilkie. He is running in 6th at the current moment, so not gaining out a whole lot of time there. Jim Brewster is on pit exit currently. There's Josh slotted in 6th. See, whenever we say, is this the week that Josh gets a good strategy down pat? Doesn't happen. 15 seconds down in pit lane compared to everybody else's 10, 11, 12, and 13 in front of him. So he is going to be on the back foot as we get to the end of this race. David Lehman, he had to come down pit lane, but he will have to in the not too far off future. The driver of the 919 heading his way off through the final turn. Looks a little bit wide off through there. Will he stay out? Once again, he will. Lehman going to hold out for another lap, but Nazelli in front of Lukanov. The gap between those competitors about 2 seconds, which is not insurmountable, but still a very good cushion for your championship points leader in Spec 1.
No, it's not insurmountable, but it's gonna need Naselli needing to make a mistake to help these guys. Obviously, there's nobody to battle with that's gonna slow him down, so it's gonna be up to Naselli, or maybe some traffic, as we see Bellini up there just ahead. We'll see how well Naselli can navigate some lap traffic. That will be the only thing that's going to hamper him from winning this race, is going to be either lap traffic or him just making a mistake. I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to be fast enough to run him down. I think once he sees the cars starting to gain, he'll pick up the pace and kind of just match whatever's behind him. So, yep, Joe. So for Josh, just carried it. So now it's not only did he take a little bit longer in the pits, so he lost a little bit of time on track. He's also carrying more fuel, which means it's heavier, which means he can't run quite to the pace of the cars in front. So that's going to hamper him even more.
You know, rather similar to how my later karting years went is basically how Josh Wilkie's race is going on. He has that more fuel in his race car. It's a little bit heavier, probably handling a little bit poorly as well. I didn't have the advantage of having fuel. I just couldn't put the cheesesteaks down, so that was my issue back in the karting days. As David Lehman has come down pit lane, the 919. This will give the race lead back to Maurizio Nazelli. He now holds on to a 1.8 second gap to himself and Dmitry Lukanov. You know, we said a few moments ago, it's that is the immediate commentator jinx. I was just going to say that it may not be an insurmountable gap for Lukanov to try and overcome and catch up to Nazelli and maybe even put an overtake on him. Then he picks up a slowdown right as I say that. The commentator jinx falling anvil crashing down onto Dmitry Lukanov's head. So a darn good race from him. If Lukanov can have 2 straight overall podiums as a Spec 2 racer and make that 4 Spec 2 wins on the trot, that would be a fantastic run for a driver who only made his debut in the series at Sebring about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. For a newcomer, he's just absolutely fit in and is just running gangbusters there in the Spec 2 class. As he gets a little bit faster, we've seen this, I think, the last 2 seasons where the Spec 2 winner has got, promoted, and maybe not in Formula Ford, but at least for sure in one in Formula Ford and one in the Spec Racer, where they just come in, win everything, and then immediately get promoted up to Spec 1, and then struggle a little bit, as you would expect. But Lukanov definitely looks like he's on his way to doing that very same thing this season.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic performance from Dmitry Lukanov up through the what's going to be the end of the first half of the season of Formula Ford Weekend Warriors action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. This broadcast is made possible by the members of the Weekend Warriors community, but if you want to put your name on this absolutely amazing racing action, you can by joining the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server and getting in contact with Mr. Stevie Ray to sponsor this incredible series with an incredible community. Drivers are always going to push it to the limit, but they do it respectfully, and we always love to see it out there on the racetrack. Maritza Nazelli is your current race leader. Dmitry Lukanov top of Spec 2 as Jörg Mani holds on to the final podium spot. P3 overall and currently leading in the Masters category. Do want to show some love to, of course, the likes of Lukanov, but he is not the hard charger. He's actually tied for second in that list with himself and Michele Viglini slotted in the number 18 car down 14th. But one racer who's been able to top the both of them in terms of making up spots, Jeff Wubker slotted in 12th, up 4 spots from where he started in this race. A darn good performance indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job by Jeff. Just staying out there, and a great job by Michele as well. Once again, doesn't normally come over and run the Formula 4s. He's normally a Spec Racer driver and has been, a pretty constant figure over there, but decided he was going to come run the Formula 4s today, and decides that he's doing a good job. Just running his race the way he normally does. Once again, just running at his pace, what he can do. Staying out of trouble. We very rarely ever talk about him because he doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. He's just in the back, and he's running what he can run. But he's always out there, and it's good to see him over here in the Formula 4s today, as we got Lukanov now with the fastest lap of the race, 126.958. So I think that first one in the 26s. So he's definitely trying to close the gap for sure over Naselli. He's doing everything he can to close it off down to 1.6.
The real question is, though, does he have enough time to try and usurp that gap? As I don't believe the white flag was in the air there, although it will certainly be close as to whether or not Nazelli is going to finish this race next time by or extend it by 1 lap. Whenever we get into these touch-and-go situations about when the end of the race shall be, considering it is a timed race here, that's when you start to worry about some of the races a little bit farther behind who may be tight on the fuel side of things. This race could fall back into the hands of Joshua Wilkie if some racers who spent far shorter down in the pit stall have slightly underfueled their car. We'll just have to see with 30 seconds left to go, 25 seconds left on the clock. Maritza Nazelli heading his way up the hill over the crest into turn number 12 right now. But darn good drive from Nazelli, but darn good season for him. And considering that mostly everybody in championship contention in that Spec 1 category apart from him is missing out on this race, Nazelli is going to get a big points haul here today as he rounds his way through the final quarter. The checkered flag will be in the air, and Marzucchi going to win once again here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. Dmitry Lukanov makes it 4 straight Spec 2 wins, finishing this race in second and setting the fast lap of the race on the last lap as well. Jurg Mani will come home in P3. Shout out to Dmitry Lukanov, saying another quick time right at the very end. Kevin Adrian and Josh Wilkie will complete your top 5. I knew it was going to be borderline. I didn't see the white flag in the air. I was expecting maybe a repeat of maybe the Daytona 24 last year, but that was firmly after that 40-minute time had run out. So Nazelli grabbed that checkered flag when I'm not sure anybody else was expecting it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. As we've got 3 cars yet to cross the start-finish line. I believe this is them coming across now. Peterson Rocha finishing in 11th, Robin Howlett 12th on debut, and Jeff Wupker finishing 13th. And we end up with a 4-way tie for hard charger today between Lukanov, Howlett, Wupker, and Bellini, all up 3 positions from their start. So great race. Naselli looked like obviously just class of the field today. Lukanov, great run to finish P2, and we've got Spec 1, Spec 2s, and Masters on the podium once again.
And we will take a look at those results right about now to let you know how everybody stood at the end of the 6th round of this season, rounding off the first half of what has been a very intriguing season of Formula Ford Weekend Warriors action in style here at Rudskogen. And it ends in the way that we were probably expecting, with Marzucchi Nazelli grabbing that checkered flag. Despite the fact that he has been the dominant racer up to this point in this season, maybe a little bit surprising to let you all know, folks, that that was only his 2nd win here in Season 4, rather surprising considering the clinic that he has put on the field in Spec 1 up to this point in the championship. Dmitry Lukanov, as I said, as he came across the line, that's now 4 wins in a row, and with that result, he will most definitely jump into the Spec 2 championship points lead. Fantastic run from the newcomer. Jurg Mani will come home in P3, maybe tying up that championship points lead in Masters a little bit more. Kevin Adrian slotted in 4th. Not a bad day in the office for the driver of the 210 car. Same can be said about Mr. Joshua Wilkie. A falling anvil did not come down on him, even though the pit strategy may have left a little bit to be desired for David Lehman. Will come home in 6th. Alan DeGassis in 7th. It's Antonio Reese finishing this race in 8th. Ian Anderson in 9th, with Jim Brewster rounding out your top 10.
Yep, Peterson Rocha finishing in 11th, Robin Howlett in 12th, Jeff Wupker finishing 13th, Michele Bellini finishing in 14th, Dan Wickzak ending early, finishing in 15th, Russ Telker 16th, Todd Shuey with the incidents early in 17th, and Nick Sigley did not take the start, will be classified 18th.
So those are your results from round number 6 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. A reminder, folks, if you want to sponsor this action here on SMB and make these broadcasts possible, you can by joining the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server linked here on the SMB YouTube channel, and get in contact with Stevie Ray so you can put your name on this great racing. Currently looking out there into the interview waiting area, not seeing anybody wanting to have a chat with us, so we'll filibuster very briefly, give these drivers an opportunity to. And Charles, I'll ask you about the first half of the season that we have had. It's been a darn good season up to this point, but still a lot of racing action to look forward to.
Yeah, it really has. We've had some really good battles in every class. Nothing's set yet. We still got lots of points on offer. So no championship is safe at this point of the season. But we've got good battles in every class. Obviously, this Spec 2 class is going to be one to watch. We've got 3 really, really good drivers up at the front of that. It's good to see the Masters class with some challenges there between Monty and Antonio. And then, of course, that Spec 1, it just seems like it's a different winner every week, even though it really probably hasn't been. But it's going to be interesting to watch. I think the Spec 2 is probably going to be the most interesting as we head down the stretch here.
Yo, you were close to being on the ball there, Charles, talking about how many different winners we have had. Nazelli, the only repeat winner, has only gotten 2 wins. So we have had 5 different winners up to this point in the Spec 1 category thus far this season. Been a pretty topsy-turvy run of things as of late. Do have the opportunity to have a chat with at least one racer who's looking to join us in the broadcast booth. Charles, I will let you have the opportunity to have a chat with Kevin Adrian, our P4 finisher at the end of this race, P2 in Spec 2, and he is yours right about now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring Kevin in here. Kevin, congratulations, P4, second in Spec 2 class today. Starting on the outside of the front row, you had some really good pace in the car early, and it seemed like toward the middle part of the race, you faded back a little bit. Is there something may have changed or something like that caused you to kind of slip just a little bit?
I don't think I really changed much. It's just those guys are really fast at the front, and I happened to get a good quali, so I was up probably where I shouldn't have been, but I was just trying to stay in draft, and I got a few off tracks going down the hill in that big corner, so you get a slow down there, and that hurts a lot. So I was just worried about Dimitri behind, and I was hoping we could stay out of his way, but he caught up pretty quick and passed us all, and in the end, it was my race with Joshua, and he came in early for the pits, and when I came out, I was 3 seconds ahead, so I don't know what happened with him, but I was happy. It was kind of an uneventful race, apart from the first few laps, but I'm happy with the result, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. We did see there was not just you, but there were a few cars that may have been struggling with that 3-4 set of corners. It just looked like there was maybe a lot of just people carrying too much speed through there and not able to quite get the car settled around through turn 4. But you mentioned the battle with Josh there. I will say, Josh, he's on an interim crew chief, and I don't think this guy's going to make it either. It seems like he's struggling getting his fueling set properly. It seems like it always costs him a few seconds there in the mid part of the race. So hopefully he'll get that resolved, and you guys can battle for 40 minutes instead of just 20.
Yeah, it would have been fun. It's a little tough to pass on here. There's only a couple opportunities, but yeah, we had pretty similar pace, so it would have been a good one.
See, and this is where I asked my partner Ryan to tell me where the race is going to be next week. I
Brands
can
Hatch.
ask you about that. Brands Hatch. Oh, my favorite British track, Brands Hatch. So, what do you think, and how do you think your odds are going to be for getting a good result there?
I've always enjoyed that track. If it's raining, even better. This is my best result without it raining. So, yeah, we'll see what happens next week. It should be fun.
All right, Kevin, congratulations on the good result and keeping that points battle tight there in the Spec 2 class for the championship. We'll let you give any thanks or shout outs and let you go along your way.
I'll just shout out to do this every Sunday morning. They just let me do my thing, and they don't come and talk to me, which always distracts me, so good for them.
All right, Kevin, thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot.
And that right there was Kevin Adrian. I'm not sure if it was just on my end, but his voice cut out right as he was about to do the shout out. So Thankfully it did come back. So he did get at least half a shout out in. But we also had the opportunity to have a chat with a man who I always feel bad dragging out of the broadcast booth since he's the owner of the company. Let's have a chat with Mr. Joshua Wilkie at the end of this broadcast. Josh, has the interim crew chief done well, or is he going to be is his employment going to be terminated shortly after this race?
Yeah, we'll be having some words for sure. I almost got it today. Almost. I overfueled just a little bit. I keep going in. For some reason, my crew chief's not taking telemetry. So I go out at about 5th lap. Crew chief says, "Hey, sorry, we didn't get any telemetry for you. It's going to be difficult." And I'm like, "Oh, great. I guess I got to figure this out on my own." I think, I sort of blew it in the pit there. I think it was 46 seconds versus probably 42 or something from everybody else, I would have probably come out, I think we're just in front of them after that strategy. But again, pit stop kind of messed me up. Really fun. Kevin had some great pace today. Always super clean driver. I know he's going to race me clean and stuff. Lukanov as well, just flying. I let him by. He's just got speed, and he is very aggressive. He's not waiting around, so I just let him go. And but good race. This place is difficult. I've never actually finished a race here, I don't think, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, happy about coming across the checkered flag at all. We were talking at length about the challenge of the circuit, how it could be the new spot in terms of collecting the incident points like they're going out of style. Certainly the slowdowns were a pretty big factor throughout. I want to ask you what your thoughts are on this circuit, because it doesn't get a lot of use on iRacing.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. For some reason, I seem to kind of excel around these places. I figure out, I use VRS. I'm not going to, that's my secret, really. I watch their 30-minute tutorials, 40-minute tutorials, learn all the little secrets about the track, so I don't get off tracks. I was actually going to 0x this race until the second last lap, and I got a bit distracted here in my office, and I went off track 3 times on my own on the second last lap, where I would have 0x'd it. I think that's really all it comes down to. Like Spa, you just have to know where those off tracks are, and then just have discipline and don't hit them. It's not as hard as, I know some people really struggle with it. I don't seem to struggle with it quite as much.
See, you should have prefaced the fact that you use VRS by saying if they want to give us money here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, that wouldn't be a bad idea either. Just give out the emails. Yeah. That'd be a darn good way to go about business. But no, Josh, I'll ask you about next week. Brands Hatch, I believe, will be running on the Indy circuit in cooperation with the iRacing FF1600 Festival that'll be going on. So I'll ask what your thoughts heading off to there next time out.
Yeah, I really like Brands Hatch a lot. It's a fun track. One of the best tracks in the world, I think, in my opinion. It's a very fun track, especially in the FFs. I did the 1600 special event there last year. It was pretty fun. I got just murdered by a bunch of people, and by that I mean they just took me out. I think in the first lap. I tried another one, took me out again in the first lap, but we'll try again this year. Looking forward to Brands Hatch. We do need I believe we need a sponsorship for that one, so anybody out there feeling like they could sponsor it, that would be great. I know we're missing 5 or 6 rounds here in the FF. It'd be a real shame to not be able to finish out the season, so I've stepped up. I'm going to take Long Beach. I believe Ian Anderson's going to take the last one there. So we still got a few rounds left. If anybody out there would like to help out, we love to see these things after. And then we really, we want to keep the broadcast going. But really looking forward to Brands Hatch for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be a very fun race, and that just reminded me that I should probably sign up for the FS1600 broadcast on the iRacing channel coming up next week. But anyways, we'll have to see. I was on the MX500 show and gave my long meandering tirade talking about hot dogs and all that stuff for 4.5 hours.
Yep.
Yes, if everyone was there for the F-Rock broadcast on Thursday, I was talking about putting forget the falling anvils. We've moved past that. So we like to have a good time here at Slow Motion Broadcasting. But Josh, I'll let you give the thanks and shout outs before we let you get some seat time in for the Spec Racer Fords coming up.
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to TW3 Paints there for my paint job on the FF. Absolutely love it. It's definitely honestly gets me stoked to drive the car. Having a cool paint job to show off and race with is really cool. So you guys need a paint, TW3 is the place to go. You can probably get links from us and everything in the Discord if you're interested in it. Thank you guys, obviously, for sure. Always doing an amazing job. Guido back there in production, always killing it. And just everybody racing as well. Can't do it without the drivers on track. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you as well for joining us in the booth and also giving us our money, Josh. Well done on the P5, and looking forward to seeing you out there with the Spec Racer Fords later on.
Yeah, thanks. Really looking forward to Interlagos. Love that place. So looking forward to it.
It's going to be a fun one. That right there was Mr. Joshua Wilkie joining us here in the commentary booth. And Charles, Brands Hatch next time out, that is going to be a pretty fun one, I got to say.
I hate that I'm going to miss it. But it's going to be. I love Brands Hatch. The Indy circuit, not so much. I'm more of the Grand Prix guy, but the Indy circuit is very fun, fast paced. With these cars, you just almost flat out the entire lap. We've had some really good races there, and we've had some really interesting finishes with drivers running out of fuel on the last lap halfway through and having to coast it back around. But yeah, it's always going to be fun there. and looking forward to it. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to check in in an airport, some undisclosed airport in Europe. So see if we can keep a lookout and watch it if nothing else.
And I believe we may potentially have a certain meowing man in the broadcast booth for next week. So that is going to be, everybody remember to grab your catnip and some Excedrin. That is going to be one heck of a show. But we've got a lot of great racing actions to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Of course, later on, have the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors running at Interlagos. But just looking ahead to the schedule here on SMB, XSLR running at Lanier a little bit later on tonight. Have some fresh new spangly purple graphics for that show that I'm very excited to debut. I put about 5 hours of work into figuring out CSS code to try and get all that working, so that'll be very fun. SRG F4 action going to be at Motorsports Arena Usher-Slaben on Tuesday. SRG F3 running at Alton Park. The Formula V is going to be at Summit Point. The Formula Ford is going to be at Brands Hatch, and the Spec Racer Ford is going to be running at the Chicago Street Course. XSLR returns in a little over a week's time at Charlotte for the last race in the big block modifieds, with SRG F4 action at Interlagos to ring in the 8th round of their season. But with all the business and everything taken care of, once again want to thank the Weekend Warriors members for sponsoring this broadcast. If you are interested, we've gone through that multiple times. Join the SMB server. Again, contact us, CV Ray. You know the rest if you want to put your name on this great racing. But for this broadcast here today, for round number 6 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors here at Rudskogen, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all for that Spec Racer Ford race coming up later on this afternoon.